You have heard Anna, Kelly, and I talk about things that we have gotten wrong on our journey. We also heard us talk about the first 5 years being hard and difficult for new real estate investors. So I thought it was time we kind of merge those together and actually talk about things that Anna and I got right during those first 5 years that increased our chances of success, that gave us a fighting chance. Because again, wasn't guaranteed. Nothing was guaranteed, but I think there was a couple of moves we each made that gave us increased chances. We're going to play the game of ping pong where she goes, then I go. We'll go back and forth 2 or 3 times. But Anna, what was something you got right in those first 5 years?
Yeah, hands down. And I know people will argue with this, but it was really, really important for me is to get on a budget and live below my means. Because if I hadn't done that and gotten rid of all of the debt that we had accumulated when we first got married, um, mostly school loans, but very expensive school loans. We did get a mortgage and we got that car. Those weren't the smart things. We did that with debt, but we had to learn to live below our means and really get on a budget. And before I got married, I had a really good income. I spent a lot of money on clothes and multiple Starbucks a day and going out to eat with my friends, and didn't have much left at the end of the month because I was spending a lot of it. So I went through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University at my church, learned to really get on a budget and learn to live below my means and prioritize what was important. That's still something I live by today. Might not agree with everything with him where I am today, but those baby steps of learning to be on a budget, learning to spend my money on paper before I spent it, and learning to live below my means has been invaluable to me.
Yeah, I love that one. That was a big step for Olivia and I too. But I'll give you another one that again I think really impacts a lot of people out there, and it's hard to tell in the moment. But obviously, I live in Silicon Valley. A lot of those early books that I read, and I read dozens of them, said invest in your backyard. And I've been very clear with folks. I took that to heart. Right, we would drive every Sunday. We drove for 52 Sundays in a row, so a full calendar year, and we didn't find cash flow. It just doesn't exist. It didn't exist in the Bay Area in 2001, let alone 2024. So folks, if you're in an environment that doesn't cash flow, sometimes you got to live where you want and invest where the numbers made sense. Now, a lot of people hear that and they immediately jump to out of state. That wasn't an option for us because I didn't want to get on a plane to see my stuff. That was just a mental block I had. But it's amazing what you can get to in 2.5 hours. There are other cities, other towns. For us, pulling out the California map and going, hey, what's 30 minutes? What's 60 minutes? What's 2 hours? And ultimately 2.5. We found this little sleepy city called Fresno, California, with nearly 500,000 people. Olivia and I knew nothing. We knew no one. The only thing we knew is you could buy a house for 100 grand that rented for $1,000, and we're like, that's better than the Bay Area. Why don't we go figure that out? But kind of rounding that out, just to really hammer this home, I learned real estate investing by spending a year in my backyard. I do not believe that I could have learned real estate investing while I was learning Fresno, right? That would have been 2 steps removed. It would have been that much more difficult. I probably would have, it would probably have broken. So while I think that first year was a little wasteful because I think I should have called it after 6 months, at least I was confident in running the numbers, in networking, and in getting to know the right people. So when we found Fresno, I just had to learn Fresno. I didn't have to learn evaluating a deal and all of those other things. So I believe for a lot of people that live in expensive markets, learn the skill in your backyard, and then once you have it, go learn another city. So that was big for us.
Yeah, I agree. I did the same thing. And my second thing was going to be really the other part of my, financial freedom equation is find a way to create more income, right? And so we live below our means. We had to find a way. How do we now expand our means? Because you can't save your way to wealth. You get the discipline to build wealth and manage money by living below your means. But we had to figure out what can we do to make more money. And I knew I was about to have a baby, and I had dabbled, we had bought a house speculatively. I had bought a condo that, we could rent out once I moved out, but I didn't really go aggressively, actively into real estate until I had my baby 21 years ago. And I thought, I just want to be home with this baby. As much as I was corporately driven and, moving up the corporate ladder, and I made a really good income, I was like, I need to figure out how to replace my income so I can work less hours and spend more time at home with this baby. And so you have to think about, what can I do to expand my means? And if you're young and you don't have kids, like, or a brand new baby like we did, everybody has time. So you have to learn to prioritize your time into expanding your means. And that's something we still do today as well. But for just like you, I thought, okay, I watched all these HGTV Flip This House shows. They were just coming out when I had my kiddo in 2003. And I was like, how hard can that be? There's people flipping houses all over Houston. I see them all the time, and I had enough of a background. I had worked at a bank. I had done mortgages. I knew money. And, I thought, oh, I've watched HGTV. Now, it was much harder than it looked, but I decided, let me try it. Like, what do I have to lose, right? We have two good incomes. We'll do it in our backyard. I have a baby, so I knew this was going to be hard. We flipped our first house, Michael, when Dane was 3 months old. That's when we
Wow.
bought the house and decided to flip it, but we decided we might as well go for it. And so, we didn't end up making as much money, but by doing it in my backyard, in fact, we did it about a few streets away from his daycare and where we
Mm.
lived, because we knew the neighborhood really well. So I was like, hey, this neighborhood is turning around. Everybody's restoring these beautiful old Victorian homes, and they were going for top dollar. I mean, like
Mm.
4 times the value before it was redone, once it was redone. So we're like, we've got a great market. We know the neighborhood. We're there all the time. And so it's very similar to yours. If we hadn't done it in our backyard that we knew like the back of our hand, even though we didn't know real estate, we didn't know, too much about values, but it was like kind of a no-brainer. Let's do it in our backyard. And we thought, what, worst case, if it didn't make money, we could always sell our house and move into it. So expanding your means, and then again, doing it in your backyard, like you said, I think is really important.
Yeah, the next one for me, and again, I do admit that I was fortunate here, is that Olivia and I were really one team. We were on the same page. And what does that mean? That means my job was to find deals and secure capital. And she ran the day-to-day. She ran the books, if you will, operations. She would have the calls and approvals and all of those things. So it was always there was never a question about whose responsibility was what. We never had a disagreement about any of those. What she decided, I agreed with, and vice versa. The other thing is we talked, right? We had a standing, for us it was a standing sushi dinner Friday, where we would go out together and obviously catch up and do all of that, because I was probably in some other country, but we would talk about the business. And I would tell her what I'm seeing. She would tell me what happened. We'd commiserate a little bit, so we're kind of on the same page. That was both rewarding and probably a little bit of reflection of hard work and sharing what's going on. So you got to get on the same page with your significant other, create those lines, and then talk about it. I think a weekly check-in, even if it's only 20 to 30 minutes over coffee, oh, I think about those times and some of those dinners, and I'm like, I just felt better. Like, she knew what I was doing, and she would tell me about the latest eviction, or the approval that was, she had to go get a second bid for, or whatever it was. It was just a way to always make sure we were connected week after week. And in a calendar year, we probably made 40 of those. So we did them relatively frequently. So that was really good for us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That same with us. My husband and I definitely did it together from the beginning. Where he had a little bit of construction background, I had kind of the financial background, and we said, hey, let's just figure this thing out. I think my next one would be, I had a mindset, which is really important, that I was going to do it no matter what it took, and I was going to stick with it and not give up when it got hard, because I knew anything you do in life, it's hard and you're going to make some mistakes. And so and our first house flip, Michael, most people never would have done it again. In fact, my husband said, we're never doing that again, because it took a year. We made so many rookie mistakes that I could do a whole show just laughing at myself, all the dumb things we did, because we didn't have the experience, right? It's not that we weren't smart, but we didn't have intelligence by doing. So we made a lot of mistakes. But the thing that I was determined to do that I think was really key to my success is I looked at it as I'm not afraid to go for it, and I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm not gonna give up, and I'll learn from my mistakes. So we did that, and we made so many mistakes. And the first thing I did was say, okay, we learned from that. Next time we'll make money. Let's do it again. And I cannot tell you how many times that has served me in life and throughout my real estate investing career, and even outside of that, is, hey, we're going to make mistakes, but I tell my kids, the only failure that's fatal is the one that you allow it to be final, right? So you can keep failing forward and say, I now have gone through schooling in real life. I've learned something, and now I'm going to be better. So that determination not to quit, to figure it out, to, take every obstacle as this is the next path on my growth, is something I got right. That it's really, really, I can't underestimate how important that is.
Yeah. My next one is what I'm going to say is no shiny objects, right? There's a lot of things that can get distracting in real estate investing, especially at the beginning when it's so slow. Is it a different city? Is it a different type of real estate? Is it a flip versus a wholesale versus buy and hold versus short term versus midterm? You know the drill. We were just always laser focused in the beginning, the first 3 years, single family homes, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, between 1,250 and 2,000 square feet. That was my buy box. It was only that. It was that for 3 years. Just so many people bounce around every month you just don't get any momentum. You don't get any compounding of knowledge. You don't get any ability to, it's like a metal detector, right? When you have it and you beep, 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 you're over something. And if you're changing all the time, it's just not that. So one of the things that we got right is we were laser focused for 15 years, right? Just, add one at a time, right? Not like the book, one at a time. So that was certainly a strength for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, you and me both. And part of that, I think, a lot of people don't really think about this, but what's really important, and I learned this back when I was in private banking, is you have to ask yourself before you say, what's that one thing I'm going to laser focus on? Is it singles? Is it quads like I did? Is it big multifamily storage, whatever? It really that shouldn't be your first question. It should be, what are your primary financial goals? And what do you need in the next 5 years? Is it more income, more growth and appreciation, or cash? Or is it asset preservation? And for us, we knew my goal is I need enough income to replace my income from my W-2. So it was cash flow. So that allowed me to say, where am I going to get the cash flow? Where am I going to actually get money in my pocket every single month that I can duplicate? And then it became a very easy path to, I need X dollars a year. I need to back that into right now in my backyard. I can buy these kind of properties that'll give me that much. It means I need this many in 5 years to accomplish it. And so when you know your financial goal, you don't get as distracted, to your point, by those shiny objects. So many people say, oh, I see you're doing big multifamily, so I should do that. They don't realize big multifamily doesn't bring you cash flow. It gives you chunks of cash at the beginning, at the end. But if you need cash flow, that is not the place to start, right? Despite what's sold in the guru courses. So you want cash flow, you buy, at the time we buy the singles or the quads or whatnot. And so you've got to know your financial goals and then stick to it for 5 years. Don't switch your strategy. Your strategy is cash flow. Then the tactic is, what kind of properties do I buy and where to accomplish my goal and my strategy of cash flow?
Yeah, I'll give you another one. Something that I believe, and it was a book I read. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. But that was something that I held in the first 5 years. Again, we got to remember, we didn't know Fresno from anywhere, right? I drove through one time on the way to Yosemite as a 13-year-old kid. And, any market, certainly the size of Fresno's, got the good and the bad. And you found some people that you thought were good that turned out to be, thieves, and lots of things. And something that I have always believed is it's always on me, right? Somebody stole from me. I didn't do enough reference checks. I didn't have, check-ins. A property manager tried to double dip on a water heater. Shame on me. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And then I'll morph one in there because I had another one is when data changed, we took massive action, right? I didn't look for kind of a second or a third opinion. If I thought somebody was stealing, they were gone, right? If one of the biggest things that saved us in those first 5 years was actually year 3.5. We kept learning. I paid to go to a Bruce Norris event, and Bruce Norris had this report called the California Crash. And I bought the ticket because I was a California investor and I had, 7-figure net worth at the time in California real estate. And I didn't want to lose it again like I did in stocks. So Bruce did a song and dance. He introduced thousands or hundreds of charts that I had never seen before. But he gave me this word called the affordability index, which I'd never heard of. So instead of, just going away and going about my business, I got inquisitive and figured out that the affordability index in Fresno had never, ever, ever, ever been that low. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So we very quickly started to sell all of our houses. Like, you got to remember, right? We're going 3.5 years in one direction. Only singles. We did buy one duplex, which was 2 houses on one lot, but still all houses. And because of one event, which I paid to go to, because he knew his stuff, because I could validate it, because I could see the red light, the big flashing red light, we sold all of our houses. So we went a different direction. And of course, we moved that equity into apartments and multifamily. But sometimes when it changes, because if we don't make that move, Anna, I'm still working. Think about that. If we don't go from 8 houses to 80 units, I'm still working. That's crazy.
100%. I say all the time, that's why we talk about the economy. You've got to know when things are shifting so that you know whether it is time to pivot, partially diversify or fully. One of the things that I would throw in there that I think is really, really important is that you've got to be good to people, but also not take on everybody's problems and burdens as your own. And that is a hard balance, especially as a landlord, right? So one of the things is if you're in this for me first, you're going to make some really bad decisions. When you're in this, that I'm going to be a blessing to everybody I come in contact with, I'm going to be respectable. There's going to be challenges, but I can be respectful to people while I'm also prioritizing, what my needs are. It's really, really important because word gets around, and especially if you're in a market and you're becoming a bigger player in that market, the realtors know how you treat them and their clients. The tenants know how you treat them. The attorneys know how you treat people, and they will call you and give you deals when they know you are a good person who is going to treat them and their clients and their referrals with the respect. At the same time, the opposite side of that I also eventually got really right is that you're going to have lots and lots and lots of people who have sob stories, whether it's a contractor who shows up drunk and they ruin your hardwood floors because they were drunk on the job, right? Or whether it's the 5 tenants out of 50 that month that say, I'm so sorry, I can't pay rent because, we just got back from summer vacation. Or it's like, sorry, Charlie, I'm not your lender. Like, you can go find someone who can lend you money. Otherwise, sorry, we evict on the 6th. And so you've got to have, you've got to be good to people, but you don't compromise your business plan. You don't compromise your tenant screening. You don't compromise your rules. You treat everyone the same. You can be good to people by saying, hey, let me refer you to some people that can help you with rent. Here's some agencies that help with rent assistance. But our policy is, you've got to have good credit. You've got to have co-signers. You've got to, pay rent on time, et cetera. So being good to people, but also not making everyone's problem your problem. Both of those things are really important, and it's a hard balance to find.
Anna, you are amazing. Thank you for being here each week. How can people find you?
You can find me here on your show every week. You can find me at social media at Anna Kelly, REI Mom, and for real estate investing, coaching, and consulting, AnnaKellyInvesting.com.
Thank you so much.